Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to another windy marathon training episode. This week I am here in Waltham Abbey, Essex. I'm going to be doing the park run in a minute. So this week we're doing a marathon training Q&A, basically because you guys were really positive for the last time we did it, and there were so many unanswered questions. I did ask the guys in the Fordy Runs running community and on Instagram for some other questions that I missed, and I got over 60 questions. So we're going to get into them. There's some really cool stuff in there actually that people are asking. Usual things really with regards to marathon training, you know, like fueling and pacing and all that kind of stuff, tapering, rest days, all that sort of stuff. So hopefully you get something out of it. If I miss anything and there's a question that you have or I didn't answer, stick them in the comments. I do go into the comments on the videos, and I appreciate everyone who does comment. Stick them in there and let me know if there's anything I've missed. But you will get onto that in a bit. First off, I'm going to do a park run this morning. So this week's been hit by Storm Dennis, I think that's right. So tomorrow's event, which was meant to be the Olympic Park Half Marathon, has been cancelled. There's a lot of events up and down the country that have been cancelled. Now, one bit of advice for you, and I've seen a lot of people asking this online. You are not going to miss anything. Your legs aren't going to fall off. You're still going to cross the line if you don't go out and do a long run when weather like this comes in. It's not worth it going out there and risking life, your life and other people's, by going out and running in dodgy conditions. It really is quite stupid, to be honest with you. You don't need to be a hero. You're not going to lose nothing, right? 1 week off, or one missed long run or one missed tempo session is going to make that much difference. So don't be stupid, guys. A marathon training plan is 16, 17 weeks long for a reason. You know, there's in parts of that we know there's going to be missed runs because of, you know, weather conditions or factors you can't control. Winter marathon training is tough because you're thrown the elements. Like this year, for example, we haven't had any snow, and touch wood, we don't get any, but you know, as I said, a training plan 16, 17 weeks for a reason. Just don't be stupid, please. I don't want to be reading about anybody getting injured or hurt. Right, so end of lecture. Right, so this week my training, just get onto that before I get this park run done. This week I've tried to get the 5 runs done. We'll see if that happens. I've done 3 runs at the start of the week. I've had a little bit of a niggle on my hamstring, and also, oh hang on, the postman's coming. And also I've had the problem of the whole family's been sick, so I've not been feeling, I would say, 100%. Mrs. Fordy's got like that cold flu thing that's been going around with on her throat and stuff like that, and the 2 kids have not been very well either. So I think I'm fighting something, but also say I've had this problem with my hamstring, which has limited my running to a degree. Look, it's postman Pat. So it's limited my running to a degree. I should be stretching more. I'm probably going to go and see Monica about it because it's getting on my nerves. So yeah, so I totally digressed. Monday, Tuesday, I did a reduced distance run. I did 1 recovery run and 1 tempo run. On Wednesday, I went out and did my usual sort of, let's call it speed session with Eddie. We did some intervals and stuff like that. Then I did the Broxbourne Club. So I ran about, I don't know, 8k in the end, something like that. I didn't run Thursday or Friday. Usually I run one of those days. But I tried to leave the hamstring alone, let it settle down, which it hasn't, because I can feel it walking along here. Today I'm going to go and do this park run, 5k, in the wind, so that's going to feel like doing probably 20k. But yeah, and then tomorrow, once the storm has passed, I plan on getting 13 miles done really easy. But yeah, I just don't feel 100% this week. I'm definitely fighting something, and I say I've got this hamstring, but doesn't matter, you just got to keep going, load up on the old vitamin C and that, and then we just crack on. So yeah, so I'm going to go over and do this park run. There's some of the guys from the Fordy Runs running club here in Broxbourne taking part. It's going to be very windy. We'll get that done, and then we'll head back to the house and we'll get some of those questions answered.
All right, okay, if you're on your mark, get set, go.
Right, so that's that done. That was hard work. Whew, felt like I ran 20k, not 5k. Right, I'm going to head back to the house, and then we're going to get into that Q&A. Right guys, so we're back in the, let's call it studio, but it's absolutely blowing a gale out there, so I thought it'd be better to do the questions in here. I am shattered. That run really took it out of me this morning. I don't know if I'm coming down with something like I said or not, but anyway, we'll just crack on and get through some of these questions. Right, so these questions are from the guys from the Fordy Runs, a running community, and some of them are for Instagram. So, first one from Andrew Potter. Gels. If an event are providing gels, say Manchester with Sports and Science, and you use Sports and Science, do you stick with your prep and you use your own, or do you carry less items and take the ones provided on course? Right, Andrew, so, okay, what he's trying to say is if you use a certain brand of fueling or a type of fueling, and then, let's say, like he said, Sports and Science or at the Manchester Marathon, would I then go and use them? No, I wouldn't. I always recommend practicing your fueling in your long runs. And whatever you use, unless you've got like a stomach that can basically, you could like swallow rust and you'd still be alive, then I would really recommend you taking your own with you and use what you've practiced during your long runs. Right, next up is a question from Billy Jackson, one that I'm personally struggling with at the moment. How do you stop the, well, he's put some emojis, but it's basically the runner's trots. So, Billy suffers from IBS, and by the way, I'm not a doctor, and I've got no qualifications to talk about this. I'm only going to talk about what I know. So, just as that's just a disclaimer. But what I've told Billy to do is, firstly, watch what you're eating the day before and leading up to the race. Make sure if you're suffering from IBS, which I know because my wife suffers chronically from it, is to eat basically plain and friendly foods towards your what's the word, probably not bowel, but inside, let's call it. So anything that's not going to flare up your IBS, I would avoid anything that will give you any form of irritation the day before. I would do that 100%. And then on the morning of the run, make sure you're fueling whatever you usually use. And then personally, this is what I do, I take 2 Imodium an hour before I run over 25 kilometers. Now, I'm not recommending you do that. If you've got any concerns, the best advice is to go and see your doctor. But what I do to settle my stomach down so I don't have any of those issues is I take 2 Imodium 1 hour before anything over 25 kilometers, and that sort of settles it down for me, and that's what I've told Billy to do. The other thing I've told Billy to do is to look at the gels he's taking. He's okay with regards to taking gels, but I said to him to have a look because he's using High 5, which I think from memory are quite a large packet, so like I don't know, probably 70 grams or something like that to get that 100 calories in. What you can do, you can source different gels. So for example, the Humor gels, which I take, which are chai based and they are natural, are 43 grams, but you're still getting the 100 calories. So you're putting less into your stomach. So again, avoiding irritations. If you keep dumping quite a lot of fluid and sugar and everything else that's in those gels into your stomach, if you're putting like 70 grams in every time, that's quite a lot to take. But if you're putting like 40 grams in or 43 grams, maybe that might be easier to stomach. Right, next up is from Fiona. Fiona, I am running my first marathon in Brighton this year. Do you have any tips about how to mentally prepare yourself to manage the race? I'm getting a bit worried about being a nervous wreck at the start. And that's Fiona. Now, I'm going to be really bad, so I apologise, Fiona. Magarison. I'm so sorry, Fiona. Right, so, nerves, tips mentally prepare for your first marathon. Well, firstly, you're going to be nervous and you're going to get anxiety. So don't worry, just be prepared for it. Everybody, even the elites, get nervous. So you're not some crank, okay? So don't worry about it. With regards to it, for me, coming to a Fordy Runs meetup helps, and that's one of the reasons why I started the big community online and why we have, you know, over 11,000 runners, is to bring people together. So on race day, when they are nervous, if they are doing their first event, doesn't matter if it's a park run, 5k, 10k, marathon, to bring people together, I think that helps with anxiety, to talk amongst your peers, so you know everybody's going through the same thing. I think that helps massively. So for my advice to you, Fiona, is to come to the meetup at Brighton. Also, what I find helped me was music. I really dig listening to music. I had a playlist, can't remember what it's called. It's not called running, it's called something else. But basically I had like a chill out music when I was on my own at events that I used to sort of zone into. That helped me. And yeah, I just don't focus on what I've got to do. I just focus on getting to the start and not worrying about anything that I've got to do. It's just purely just getting to the start, going through my pre-run ritual, which is, you know, going to the loo a couple of times, get my bag in, all that sort of stuff, and focus on the here and now and not worry about what I've got to do. Right, next up from Joanna McDowell. Why does the first 5k feel so hard? Tips to get through it on a long run. Does it get any easier? Yeah, you know, I know exactly what you mean. For me, it's the first 3k. They always feel really hard, and I don't know. Well, I kind of know why. It's because you're getting up, you're switching your body on. None of us do any form of warm-up. We just get up on a Sunday, Saturday, we have our breakfast or whatever we do, we just go out the door and we start running. Which is, you know, if you think about it, you look at people like Mo Farah and all that, they do their warm-ups and they do all this sort of stuff and then they go. We don't do any of that sort of stuff. Maybe you do, but I think that is an element of it. But mentally, I think because where we're thinking, right, I've got to go out and run 22, 23 kilometres, there's an element of that. So there's an anxiety in your body that you're not aware of. You may have some sort of hangover in your legs from the work you've done in the week as well. You may not have fueled correctly over the last couple of days. You may be dehydrated. That's another thing that I've really learned, is the fact that if I go out and I'm hydrated before I go out on those long runs, that seems to really help me. I seem to be much more awake and much more focused. So have a look at your hydration. But yeah, so I think it's always going to be hard, the first 3k, 5k, whatever it is. When you're going out and doing a long run, I think I say a lot of it is mental anxiety that you're not aware of, and your body does feel that. But yeah, have a look at hydration and just focus not necessarily on, you know, what you're going to be doing. I always talk about the here and now, being in the present. Think about the first kilometre and or first mile and focusing on your pace and your breathing and all that sort of stuff. And then it will just sort of ease in, and then you'll be off and you'll be into your pace and you'll be into your sort of rhythm, and you won't really be worrying about anything else. Right, from Kat Newman. As a new runner who just wants to improve but with no current solid plans for races, etc., so just an everyday runner, which is great, would it be best to concentrate on improving speed or distance? I think actually the two go hand in hand. You will become stronger, fitter by doing work on speed, which will allow you to run further and more distance. Whether you just concentrate on distance is up to you, but personally I like to mix it up. I think I get a real benefit from doing a decent speed session in the week with some other form of speed work, you know, whether it be a tempo run and then some intervals or whatever, with my long run. That makes me, I think, a better runner, and I'm not something special, I'm just like you guys, but for me, you know, when I'm training, it helps me by doing a mixture of both. So with regards to focusing on one, I would say don't. I would say try and focus on two. Right, Ian Wilkinson. I'm a week into my plan for Edinburgh on May the 24th, but I made quite a bit of progress in January. Well done. My long run is already 11 miles. I'm doing about 25 miles a week, which is great. Is it best to keep pressing on, or should I get back to the plan and have a couple of easy weeks? Well, I recommend, there's two things here. One, you're doing awesome, but what happens can be the temptation is that you feel amazing and you end up doing too much, and then that's where the injuries come in, and mental fatigue and your overtraining syndrome and all that sort of stuff. So my recommendation is always try and loosely stick to the plan. Like I always say, a plan is just a plan, and the best plans don't go to plan. So try and stick somewhere around that. The weeks that you feel like a hero, great, but definitely factor in some down weeks. I love a down week or 2 down weeks, where you can scale it back and you can let your body heal, you can let your body rest, and your mind gets a week off. But yeah, I personally would loosely follow your plan as best you can. Emily Reed, what do people do after their marathon? You train and focus on it for months and change your lifestyle around it, then boom, it's all done. Do you have something lying in wait to focus on? Is there a down? Do people take a few weeks off running? I'm worried I'll lose my mojo. Right, okay, so what I do, okay, so I think what you're trying to get at is what happens after you do the marathon. For me, I'm really lucky. I've always got events planned, right? I've always got, you know, stuff that I've got to do. I get invited to a lot, so I'm blessed, right? But if you're doing a marathon and then after that you're going to go, right, now what do I do? There is an element of that I have found in the past when I was first getting into all this, that yeah, you'd come out of that and you'd be in a bit of a low actually, and it can hit you. So I'm just giving you a heads up, Emily. The best thing I can recommend to you is to get something booked. The good thing is that parkrun is readily available for everybody to do, and it's free. So I would maintain some form of mental stimulus with your running, even though after your marathon the last thing you're going to want to feel like is running. I would intentionally go out and do a park run with people, and I would intentionally try and get some running done, even if you have no further plans to do any more events, just so it helps you sort of that recovery after your marathon. It is really important. We'll get onto this in my series later on, with regards to what happens after the marathon and recovery and all that sort of stuff. But I can really recommend anybody out there, especially if you're doing your first marathon, really not necessarily book something, but make sure that after your marathon that you don't just stop suddenly, because your body, your mind, everything is used to doing all this training. So if you can, even if it's just getting along to a park run and then doing a few more runs over the course of, you know, 3 or 4 weeks. So like as I said, always with a marathon plan, it's all about, you know, the climb up the mountain, and then you've obviously got the down. When you're coming down, you want a nice gentle decline. You just don't want to fall off the cliff. So think to yourself, right, what can I do? And park run's a great way to do that. So yeah, Emily, and anybody out there who's worried about losing their mojo after a marathon, I would make sure either that you book something or you focus on getting along to a few park runs, socialise and doing a few runs, just to help you with that sort of come down from doing all that marathon training. Right, next up, Stephen Edwards. What's best, sign up to one of the big marathons or try your hand at one of the smaller events with less people? You know what? One of the best events I did was the Chelmsford Marathon. It was great. It was a smaller marathon. I think they had like 800 people, and it was great fun. It was super well organised by the guys from Havens Hospice, and it was a great marathon to do. And I feel like I achieved what I wanted to achieve. So there's a lot to be said, I think, for going and doing a smaller event. The big events are awesome in the respect that the support you get from people on the day and the organisations that put them on. It depends, I suppose, a lot on the individual. Me personally, I love the crowds, and they are a huge help for me. And knowing, for example, at London, that we've got a Fordy Runs cheer station at mile 19, that is huge for me psychologically. I get to mile 19 and I get to see my kids and I get to see everybody else. So for me, psychologically, that really helps. When you've got a smaller event, you don't necessarily have that, so it can be mentally tougher, but actually sometimes it's quite nice just to get out there and get it done. I think it's really on an individual basis, but me personally, I do like the bigger events. Right, next up from Jamie Gross, foam roller, massage ball, sports massage, when, how often, how useful? I spoke about this in my daily vlogs. We did a series, and I'm actually going to put the playlist up, I think, because it's quite interesting. I did a daily vlog of what it's like for me every day during my marathon training, and during that I was talking about active recovery, and I actually went and got a sports massage. I think I'm terrible at foam rolling and all that sort of stuff. I hate it. I mean, I hate it with a passion. And the other day I was trying to find out about how to get one of those guns, because I'm so lazy and I don't have enough time to do it. Probably like everybody else out there, you have, you know, life gets in the way, kids, whatever, job, and you're running around, you don't have time. But stretching is so important. Even if you sack off the foam roller and you spend 10-20 minutes stretching every day during marathon training or half marathon training or whatever, I can't recommend it enough. Sports massage, 100%, especially again if you're marathon training. You know, they're expensive, right? So it depends on what your budget is, but if I could have a sports massage every week, I would. Again, I'm really lucky with Monica, MFB physio, osteo, down here in Hoddesdon. You know, she's unbelievable the amount of time she's put me back together. But you know, if you know somebody like that you can sort of work with and they can help you over a marathon training period, then it's a good bit of advice to go and talk to them and plan out when you're going to go in there. See what they recommend. You know, whether you've got a few niggles that you've had previously, they may be able to work with you. You know, on the sort of stretches you should be doing and all that sort of stuff. But if you haven't got the money, which I totally understand because it's hard out there, then if you can just stretch for like 20 minutes every day, you know, do your stretches at home, I can't recommend it enough. It'll make a huge difference to you. Right, next one from Kerry Carson. Heart rate training, is it any good and how do you do this? Right, well this is interesting because Fletch asked me to talk about this because I gave him some advice the other day. Now Fletch was struggling big time. He hit a bit of a low and he felt like he couldn't run even just 3 kilometres and he was getting all worked up about it and all this sort of stuff. Again, I go back to my videos. I did a video on pacing and that sort of stuff, and I talked about heart rate training. What I've done over the last year, maybe longer, I've trained, I train now more to heart rate than pace. And I told Fletch the same. What he was doing was he was basically going too hard, too much too hard. So he was doing intervals, he was doing jib, he was doing this, and he was going just bang, 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 really hard all the time. So I said, look, stop, take a step back, slow down, and just run at keeping your average heart rate at, I think I told him 150. Now everybody's different, right? Fletch is a big guy, ex-rugby player. He's, you know, he's a big fit guy, but he's a big lad. So his heart rate is going to be different to mine. But I just said to him, go out and run, but just keep your heart rate average at 150. Don't focus on anything else, distance or pace or anything. Just focus on keeping that at 150. And it basically trying to get that consistency of working within an area of your aerobic system, energy system, that you're not putting any pressure on anything else. You're not overexerting yourself, so you're not going into your sort of, you know, anaerobic system or anything like that. You're well within yourself, and then you will be able to achieve more within that range, and you'll be able to accomplish more, and you'll be able to train for longer, and then you can bring that anxiety down. You can bring everything back and just normalize it while training within that heart rate zone. Then you can then establish a base, and then you can then move into working in those different energy systems during your training. So whether it be a tempo run and you go up to, you know, your next one, which is your anaerobic energy system, or you go up higher and you work through those areas, and you improve your, you know, your fitness and your cardio and, you know, and your stamina and all that sort of stuff. But if you can work to start with within that sort of 150 zone, which was his, comfortably, you will just be able to accomplish more. So yes, working with your heart rate zones is a very, very good way. Your watch, you can do it, but they are inaccurate. They will spike. I was with Eddie the other night and his one was like just spiked up to like 193 for no purpose at all. So, you know, if you want to do it properly, get yourself a heart rate monitor and really try and run to it if you can. I do it, like I spoke about it, and I know I'm going on about quite a bit, but you know, I work within ranges of, like, so if I'm working on a long run, I will make sure, or try and make sure as best I can, that I'm not going over like 150 on my heart rate. You know, I'd love to be in a range of like 135 to 145, somewhere around there. But obviously towards the end of the run it gets harder, right? You know, and then when I go up a level, I go, you know, more towards like 160, 170, that kind of thing. And work within that different, as I say, they're pushing into a different energy system that we've got. And then, you know, just trying to work in different ranges, really. And using heart rate has allowed me to do that. And it's just and you'll match it up to your pace. It'll be interesting. You'll look, and then you'll look at your pace and you'll go, oh, right, okay. And then you can kind of establish like a pattern and correlate it. And it really does help if you can get your brain around it. I can't recommend it enough. It's made a huge difference to me in my training. And Fletch, just ask Fletch, and he'll tell you he's on Instagram and stuff like that. He's now back to where he was just by coming back and just training to heart rate. It's made a huge difference, and I think it can make a huge difference to you. Right, 2 more to go. Matt Collins. I'm training for the London Marathon, my first marathon, and I have a half in 2 weeks and a 20 miler in 5 weeks. I was up to 16 miles, woohoo, 3 weeks ago, but I had 2 poor weeks due to illness. With your experience, well, I wouldn't call it experience, but okay, where do you think I should pick up from? Wherever you are on your plan. It's as easy as that. You have a plan for a reason. I would most definitely just pick it up from your plan. Right, last question, and it's from Jane Hastings. How often do you take gels during a full marathon? Seem to have my half sorted, but running first marathon soon and wondered what people generally do. Okay, this is common. Again, firstly, everybody's different. I know I keep saying it, but everybody is different. A lot of it goes on weight, height, general fitness and all that sort of stuff, and the speed at which you're going to run the marathon, whether it be, you know, 4 hours or 7 hours, whatever, depends on how many gels or how much fuel you're going to take on. It doesn't have to be gels. I did a video on natural ways to fuel your runs. Check it out. As a general rule of thumb, you're going to basically deplete all your stores pretty much 45 minutes, 60 minutes into the run. You're going to need to sort of top up. Okay, so if you're looking at taking on some form of fuel, I would look at about 45 to 60 minutes. So, you know, if you're doing a 4-hour run or 5-hour run, you know, it's real easy to take one every 60 minutes as an example, right? So you'll need 5 gels as an example. Oh, 4 gels because you'll finish on the 5th one. But as a general rule of thumb, me personally, this is what I do. If I'm running a time, I will take a gel every 45 minutes. Now I'm taking 100 calories every 45 minutes. I will front load my fueling at the start of the run, so I will take more, and that's why I do it every 45 minutes. So by the time I'm about where are we? So yeah, I will take one. So by the time I get to like 24k, I've had 300 grams of calories, which is what I want. Really, I'd like to have a little bit more, but about 300 grams of calories. And then I tend to take one gel after, you know, somewhere about maybe 20 miles. And then I may nick a bit of Lucozade Sport or take Revies or something like that towards the end of my run just to get me through. But I try and load up as much as I can at the start of the race, in that first period. So over half distance, but in that period. So then I'm fueled, and there's less chance of me bonking, hitting the wall and all that kind of stuff. That's how I tend to do it if I'm running for a time. If I'm not running a time and I'm just out there mucking about like I usually am, then I will take a gel every 60 minutes, something like that, because I'm not working particularly hard, and that's not being big-headed on times, because I'm not the fastest runner out there in the world. But I'm just saying, if I'm just taking it easy, I will take one every 60 minutes, which is about, let's say, just over 10k for me, and I'm quite comfortable at that level, and that keeps me topped up, keeps me fueled up, for whatever distance I'm doing. That's what I do. But as I say, as a rule of thumb, look to about 45 minutes to 60 minutes to take something on, whether that be a gel, you know, or some form of natural fuel, whatever you want to do. But you want to try and achieve about roughly around 100 calories during that period of time. Have a look on Google. I mean, Google's brilliant for stuff like that. There's loads of stuff written on gels and how many calories you should be getting and all this sort of stuff. But that's generally what I do, and I hope that helps. Right guys, so there we go. There's all the, well, not all the questions done. We could have been here all day, but the video's long enough as it is. So if I missed anybody, which I have done, I'm really sorry. But I try to get as many sort of common themed questions done as possible. If you've got any specific questions, stick them in the comments below. Like I said earlier, I do go through the comments, and I do appreciate everybody who does comment. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave me today. Next week, I can't remember what we got on next week. No event next week, so I might try and get a 20 miler done next week. I'm not sure. We'll see how we go, because my hamstring is killing me. But yeah, that's it for this week. Be careful out there with Storm Dennis. It is a nightmare, I know, but don't panic. We'll all cross the finish line. We'll all have a smile on our face. Carry on being awesome, and I'll catch you guys later.